Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is David. This is episode 2282B, and today's date is September 21st, 2020, and the title of the episode is Timing is Everything, Election Chaos Countered, Crimes Against Humanity on Deck. Let's talk about your health. There's one diet that athletes, celebrities, and high performers are swearing by. You've probably heard of it. It's called keto. Keto is being praised around the world because it's widely effective at boosting metabolism, elevating energy, and enhancing mental focus. But for many, it's an extremely difficult diet to follow. Some experts agree it isn't even sustainable in the first place because it requires cutting out delicious carbs like bread, pasta, and fruit. If you want the benefits of elevated ketone levels without having to actually do the difficult parts of the keto diet, you'll want Keto Elevate. Keto Elevate is the most advanced MCT powder on the market today because it only provides you with the pure C8, which is the most ketogenic of all MCTs, fueling you with quick, clean, natural energy. Keto Elevate powerful support ketone production, whether you follow the keto diet or not. That's right, it can help you elevate ketone levels even without the strict no-carb policy. Get your own bag for 51% off and free shipping by going to ketowithx22.com. That is ketowithx22.com. Or click the link below. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, before I get started, I wanted to talk about what's happening with X22 Report. As everyone should already know, I received a strike on the YouTube channel, which means I can't upload for about a week. And after September 24th, I'll be able to upload again. But as we approach the election, and even after the election, we know the deep state, they're going to do whatever they possibly can to shut down as many accounts as possible. Not just on YouTube, but Twitter. We're seeing it on Facebook. We're seeing it on Google and many other platforms. I am on different platforms like BitChute. You can come to the X22Report.com site, listen to the podcast. But I decided to take control back where I set up a secure server. Now, this is a private server, and I will be hosting all my videos on this private server. Now, as everyone knows, hosting videos is expensive. There's bandwidth, there is space. Each video that I upload is about a gig, and I upload about 2 videos a day, 6 days a week, and then I also have interviews. So I set up a private secure server that I can control, and it will cost money to maintain. So what I did was I broke down the cost of the server. And what it turns out to be is that each person, for each day, it's about 8 cents a day for bandwidth and space usage, which means if you sign up for the entire year, it's $29.99. So if everything should disappear, YouTube, BitChute, you name it, the secure server will still be there. And whoever has access, whoever wants to have access later on, you'll be able to get access to it. Now, does this mean you can't get the free information, the free videos? No, I am still on all the other platforms. But I decided to set this up and decided to maintain it myself. So this way I have the X22Report.com, I have the X22Report.tv, and this will be the hub of where everything is. Now, if both of these should be blocked, I do have an email list, which is right on the X22Report.com site. You can sign up there, and it's completely free. I don't give your name out or anything like that, just your first name and your email address. And this way I can email you if something should happen, and this way you can find out where you need to go for the next backup location. So if you want to join up to the secure server, you can go to the X22Report.com site. Up top, there's an X22 Report TV tab, and you can click on that, and right there you can sign up for X22 Report TV, or you can just go to X22 Report TV and you can sign up right on the site. And once again, you can still get the free podcast, which is on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, or you just come right to the X22Report.com site and you can listen to the podcast. You can still get the free videos on YouTube, as long as they don't censor me, on BitChute and the rest. Remember, those are public forums. I don't have control over those. Or you can come over to the X22Report.com site, sign up with X22 Report TV, and that is the tab on top of X22Report.com, or just type in X22Report.tv and you can sign up right there. Now, the deep state, the mainstream media, the corrupt politicians, they have been trapped with the trap of all traps. They didn't even see it coming. They thought they were in control. They thought they had the upper hand, but they didn't. What did they think? They thought if we got the House, which controlled the FBI investigation, controlled Mueller, we had it made. We don't need the Senate. We need the House. Well, they took the House. And what happened to the Mueller investigation? What happened to the swamp creatures in the FBI? They were removed. The Mueller investigation ended and it turned up nothing. Now they're sitting in the House. They can't even create laws because it could be blocked by the Senate. The Senate was always the key. The Senate was the target. What can the Senate do? They can confirm judges. They can confirm Supreme Court judges. It can act as a firewall to block everything the deep state is trying to do. Now, in the beginning, it might not have seemed that that was important, but during the impeachment trial, it was very important. And since the beginning, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the mainstream media, they underestimated the people of this country. And as time went on, the silent majority became larger and larger. They saw what was happening. They understood that this cannot happen. And it grew. Remember, the deep state, they were never in control. If they were in control, they wouldn't need all these events. They wouldn't need to do all of this. They wouldn't act out like a child does. Think about a child and the parent. If the child doesn't get their way, what do? They scream, they yell, they stamp their feet. If the parent says no, the child increases the volume, increases the stamping, continues on until they run out of steam. And then the parent steps in. The same thing is happening right now. The deep state players, they're throwing a tantrum. Yes, they're going to scream louder and louder during the election, after the election, but they will run out of steam. And that's when the patriots move in. But the one thing that's very important is that they underestimated the people of this country. And it's spreading across the globe. In Canada, 70,000 people marched for the U.S. president. Actually, if you looked at it, you would think that was being held in the U.S., that rally. But it wasn't. It was in Canada. Why do you think you see the boat parades, the car parades, the tractor parade? Because the silent majority is no longer silent. They're speaking out. They're showing the other people, we are the majority. We are in control. And the deep state players, they're panicking. They know they have been trapped in a trap of all traps. This is what John Brennan tweeted out. Lindsey Graham's support for filling a SCOTUS vacancy in final year of presidency term is pure hypocrisy. As I recount in Undaunted, he once told me not to pay attention to his public statements, as it's all just politics. He fully deserves to be bounced from the Senate. He's panicking. They're trying to remove senators. They're trying to silence senators any way they possibly can. Is it going to work? No. They already have rioters at McConnell's house trying to force him to not to confirm anyone. And then we have individuals that are saying, listen, if Trump tries to ram through an appointment, we're just going to shut down the country. This is from Bo Williman. We're shutting this country down if Trump and McConnell try to ram through an appointment before the election. They're not going to ram through anything. There is plenty of time. Remember, individuals that were nominated, they were confirmed within 0 days, 15 days, 20 days, 25 days, 30 days, where there's plenty of time. No problem with that. And yesterday we showed how Obama, Hillary Clinton said it is the president's duty and the Senate's duty to nominate and then confirm. And it doesn't matter if it's an election year. Now remember, RBG, the mainstream media, was out there trying to convince us that her dying wish was for the Senate to hold off until after the elections. Wait for a new president. Well, what happens when Trump gets elected again? He's not a new president. He's the same president, which means you have to wait another 4 years. That doesn't make sense. But if we go backwards in time once again, and we go back to 2016, What did the Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg say in 2016? There is nothing in the Constitution that prevents a president from filling a vacant seat on the high court in his final year in office. This was in the New York Times. So right there, that whole thing of her last dying wish is absolutely ridiculous. The only reason they're out there saying this is because at this particular time, they don't have control over the Senate. And they just realized this. And this is why they're trying to stop it. Actually, they're a little bit late. They can't stop it. This is what Trump tweeted out. Senate GOP, Crazy Nancy Pelosi wants to impeach me if I fulfill my constitutional obligation to put forth a nominee for the vacated seat on the United States Supreme Court. This would be a first, even crazier than being impeached for making a perfect phone call to Ukrainian president. And he's absolutely right. Because Trump, he plans to announce his SCOTUS nomination either Friday or Saturday. A lot of people saying it's going to be a woman. Not going to make any predictions of who it's going to be, but we all know that he's going to pick someone. And articles of impeachment, it won't stop a Supreme Court confirmation vote. Why? The Senate will just vote to table, set aside the impeachment, and move forward with the confirmation. Remember, Senate was always the target. And actually, if the House actually does this, it shows that they're using impeachment as a political weapon. Because Trump is following the Constitution. Because this is the way it works. Trump nominates someone, doesn't matter when it is, he's president. Just because he's in his last term doesn't mean that he stops being president. The Senate either confirms or rejects. The House has no role. They don't control this process. This is why the Senate was always the key. Now, AOC said something very interesting. She said, we need to tell Mitch McConnell he's playing with fire. Now, first of all, was that a threat? And what does she mean by playing with fire? We know that the rioters, the anarchists, Antifa, they've been setting fires in California and Oregon. There's many different cases where they've arrested, they've shown people starting fires. Actually, some people have caught them on video. So is she trying to say that they're going to take this to the next step? They're going to use fire? We'll have to wait and see. But we can see that they're panicking right now. They don't know what to do. They can't say that Trump is breaking any laws, that he's going against the Constitution, because he's following the Constitution. And he will nominate, and the Senate will confirm. Why are they so worried about this? They're worried because of what they've been trying to do. They've been trying to create election chaos. Remember, a lot of the states now have voted to hold back their count until all the mail-in ballots come in, which means they're just trying to delay the whole entire thing. Now, on Undercover DC, an individual named Larry Schweikart explains how this is all going to unfold. And let me just read a portion of this article. It says, in the U.S. Civil War, we had exactly this situation. Remember, Lincoln defined the war as a rebellion, meaning the southern states never left the Union. But in practical terms, they had. So what happened with their electors in 1864? There were none submitted. Yet the election went forward with Lincoln winning because he won the majority of electors submitted. The December 14th deadline appears fixed as well. In Bush versus Gore, the deadline of then, December 12th, was upheld by a 5-4 vote, all the conservatives. The court reiterated that the December date was a safe harbor deadline. If all state disputes, if any, over election results must be resolved by December 8th, let's call that the certification date. That is, a state is required to certify its slate of electors, which will determine who won the state by December 8th. Then on December 14th, the electors meet in their states and cast their votes. Note, nowhere is the state's governor involved in this. So the state governors, they are not involved. While a Secretary of State has to provide the certification on December 8th, the governor has no role in the election process. For example, 3 U.S. Code Section 2, failure to make choice on prescribed day, says, whenever any state has held an election for the purpose of choosing electors, and has failed to make a choice on the day prescribed by law, the electors may be appointed on a subsequent day in such a manner as the legislator of such state may direct. By the way, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin all have Republican legislators. Again, the governor is irrelevant. However, the chief executive of the state is required to transmit the results to the U.S. archivist. What happens if no certificates of the electors are transmitted? In 3 U.S. Code Section 12 and 13, when no certified vote from any state has been received by the Senate or the archivist, they request the Secretary of State of the state in question to send up the certificate, lodged with him by the electors of such state. Wait, what if there are no electors because the votes are still being counted? The code doesn't specify what comes next, although, oddly, it allows a district judge in whose custody one certificate of votes from the state has been lodged to transmit the votes. Again, however, no one ever asked the question, what if a state does not want its votes counted? Electoral votes that are certified in the state are then transmitted to Congress, a process that is supposed to be completed by December 23rd. On January 6th at 1 p.m., both houses of Congress convene to count the votes. If no president has been chosen by that time, the House of Representatives is to choose from between the two elector recipients. Let's talk about protecting yourself and your home. Burglaries across the country are on the rise. For example, San Francisco has reported a 40.8% increase in burglaries since the shelter-in-place orders began. Don't let yourself or your family become a target. Make sure your house is protected with ultra-bright night solar lights. The night solar lights can be installed virtually anywhere due to the fact that they're solar-powered, zero batteries, and there is no wires to mess with. Night Solar Light is going to give everyone 52% off their own ultra-bright floodlights, plus free shipping included. Go to nightsolarlight.com or click the link below. Right here, the doomsayers scream, "See, I knew Pelosi would steal it." Well, not necessarily. The House is to vote not by member, but by delegation. Republicans in the current House control 26. Democrats control 23. And one is split. This then would elect Donald Trump as president. The Senate then decides the vice president, and here Pence would be the selection. So if states hold out for any reason, they can be presented to conform, but there is no penalty under law. Apparently, they would lose their electoral votes. Do you think they're really going to do that? Lose their electoral votes? That makes no sense. And remember, legislators have the final call on all matters related to the electors. The state legislators can simply say, "Time's up," and force the Secretary of State to certify, probably even over the opposition of a governor. Of course, each of these steps likely would go to court. The House would vote for Trump anyway. If Trump wins election night, he will likely win on December 14th. So, once again, if this had to go to the Supreme Court, if there were any other types of problems, it would go to the Supreme Court, and what is Trump going to do prior to the election? He's going to nominate someone. The Senate's going to confirm. All the pieces are in place. He's also been putting federal judges into place all around the country. This has been planned since the beginning. What the deep state is seeing right now, they're seeing their entire plan go down the tubes for election chaos, for everything. What do they have left? They only have events, rioting, pushing other events. That's all they have left. The patriots, they have trapped them. And they're trying to figure a way out of this trap. And we're going to see them kick and scream. Now, everything is closing in around human trafficking, pedophilia, crimes against humanity. And we see the Justice Department, they awarded nearly $101 million to combat human trafficking. And we can see that Bill Barr, he is behind this. And they are fighting to get this done. This is what he says: "The scourge of human trafficking is the modern-day equivalent of slavery, brutally depriving victims of basic human rights and essential physical needs as it erodes their sense of dignity and self-worth. The Department of Justice is relentless in its fight against the perpetrators of these heinous crimes. Working with state and local enforcement and community victim service providers, we will continue to bring these criminals to justice and deliver critical aid to survivors." The U.S. Marshals, they just informed us that most of the children that they are rescuing, they were tied to human trafficking. This is what they tweeted out. 35 missing and endangered children between the ages of 13 and 18 were recovered during Operation Safety Net in Cleveland, Ohio. More than 20% were tied to human trafficking cases, and those cases were referred to Human Trafficking Task Force in Cuyahoga County. Now, we can see that the Patriot Intelligence Insider let us know that certain cases, certain individuals, they're going to be entering the spotlight once again. And remember, we saw the names Epstein, we saw the names Assange, we saw the names Guccifer, Brennan, Seth Rich, and it seems that Epstein is now coming into focus. And a U.S. Virgin Island Attorney General, this individual is now requesting Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs. And he wants the logs listing the names of all people transported on Jeffrey Epstein's fleet of aircraft. And they have been subpoenaed by the court in the U.S. Virgin Islands. You think those individuals that were flying the Lolita Express, do you think they're panicking right now? Absolutely. And the Attorney General, Dennis George, has filed a lawsuit against the estate alleging 22 accounts, including human trafficking, aggravated rape, child abuse, neglect, forced labor, and prostitution. George is also requesting to see any complaints or reports of potentially suspicious conduct, as well as a personal notes made by the pilots. So this is coming into the spotlight right now, and we're seeing the crimes against humanity case move forward. Epstein is in the news. Panic is setting in amongst the corrupt politicians, the royals, the wealthy elite, because now people are going to see these names. People are going to understand that they traveled to Epstein's Island. This is just the beginning. Remember, this is a perfect storm, and this whole thing is now coming together. We have treason, sedition, we have crimes against humanity, we have the email scandal, we have Uranium One. It's all starting to fall apart for them. And they thought, we're going to use the election period of time to take control back. That is now falling apart. They're not in control. They are being controlled. There's a big difference. Now, what's very interesting is we know that Trump came out with the announcement that he's implementing the 1776 Commission to counter the 1619 Project, which they were trying to teach our young in this country that this entire country was built up on we're divided, and teaching them history that didn't really exist. Why do you think Obama pushed Common Core? Why do you think Bill Gates pushed Common Core? What was the purpose of that? That was to teach the young a completely different history, to teach them about all the subjects they wanted them to believe. This is how you transform a nation from within. You start with the very young, and you teach them not about the U.S., not about we're all created equal, not about freedom. You teach them that the country is divided. You teach them that they don't have rights, they're privileges. You teach them that the country was not created in 1776, it was created in 1619. This is why they implemented Common Core. That was the purpose, because when you start with the young, you can transform a nation. They didn't care how long it took. And you can see today, just look at some of the children out there toppling statues. They do believe that we have a racism problem. They believe that the country is divided. And you can see that they're transforming America. This is just the beginning. We've seen this in the past. This is what they did in Nazi Germany. They taught the young. And as they grew up, they believed whatever they were taught. And this is how they were able to push their agenda through these children, because they truly believed what they were taught. And the same thing was happening here in the United States, slowly but surely. And now everything is being reversed. Remember, California was the poster child. They were doing a lot there. And look at it. California is a complete and utter mess. Now, it's very interesting. During this whole pandemic, they've been telling us that we can't go to funerals, we can't go to church, we can't go to temple, we can't go to the mosque, we can't do any of these things. Yes, we can riot, we can protest, because that's okay, because the virus is very smart. It knows not to go to those areas. Oh, Trump rallies, that's where people are going to get infected, because the virus is that smart. It knows, oh wait, that's a rally? I'm going to go there. Oh wait, that's a protest riot? I'm not going to go there. That's how smart the virus is. But it's very interesting. We had a funeral for George Floyd, who's a criminal, and now we're having a funeral for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Now, what about all those other people where they had their father, the mother, the cousin, the brother, sister, uncle, aunt pass away? They weren't allowed to attend their funerals. So it seems like we have two set of rules. The deep state rules, where if they want to have a funeral, they'll have a funeral, and everyone else, well, you just can't have one. And it seems that Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she's going to be lying in the Supreme Court, and they're making arrangements to allow public viewing, despite the virus right now. They're going against everything that they've been telling us. Again, one rule for them, one rule for us. Now, the CDC, they came out with an announcement saying that the COVID virus is airborne. It will stay suspended in the air, and 6 feet apart is not far enough. Why was this message put out there? I do believe it was to stop people from going to the polls. And then all of a sudden, they retracted this entire statement, saying that it was a mistake. This was a draft, and it was released by accident. Even the WHO doesn't agree with the CDC. There's no proof of it. And again, any of these organizations that come out with any type of statement, they need to show clinical trials repeated over time, peer-reviewed, for the people to believe it. They just can't come out with a statement. So it seems like the CDC statement, it was retracted after they put this out there. Now, we know with the second event, the deep state, they're going to be planning major riots. We understand from the Patriot Intelligence Insider that we need to go back to the beginning to understand exactly what's going to happen with the National Guard, with the military. And we know that they're going to push, and I'm talking about the deep state, they're going to push everything that they have. But it seems that there are governors, the Department of Justice, they are getting prepared for what is coming. Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, put out this message. Today I announce bold legislation that creates a new criminal offenses and increases penalties for those who target law enforcement and participate in violent, disorderly assemblies. We will always stand with our men and women in uniform who keep our communities safe, and put out the guidelines. And it says, prohibition on violent or disorderly assemblies, prohibition on obstructing roadways, prohibition on destroying or toppling monuments, prohibition on harassment in public accommodations, RICO liability, and then lists the jail sentences. So the police will be behind this. This legislation is going to be backed by the governor, and the governor is going to give the police his full support. And then we have the Department of Justice. They label New York City, Portland, Seattle as cities permitting violence and destruction of property. Barr said that the local leaders in these cities are endangering citizens, including peaceful protesters. He said, we cannot allow federal tax dollars to be wasted when the safety of the citizenry hangs in the balance. It is my hope that the cities identified by the Department of Justice today will reverse course and become serious about performing the basic function of government and start protecting their own citizens. The Department of Justice said other cities will be evaluated for the list using qualifications including the prohibition of police intervention, removal of law enforcement from certain areas, defunding of police departments, the acceptance or rejection of federal law enforcement to the area, and any other related factors that the Attorney General deems appropriate. And these cities, these states, they're not going to receive federal funding. And right here, Barr is putting them on notice. Now, to take this a step further, we're seeing the legislation put forth by Jim Jordan and others, and Debbie Lesko. They are putting forward Hold Rioters Accountable Act. Now remember, the riots have cost at least $1 billion in damages, probably a lot more. Minneapolis alone have about 1,500 businesses that were damaged or destroyed in the summer rioting. And it seems that the legislation now is coming down hard on Pelosi, Democrats, and all these individuals. Because remember, they all said this was a myth. They said the riots didn't exist. And today, Representative Debbie Lesko put out this statement. Today, U.S. Congressman Debbie Lesko and ranking member of the House Committee on the Judiciary, Jim Jordan, introduced the Holding Rioters Accountable Act of 2020 to hold rioters responsible for destruction across our nation accountable for their actions and ensure local officials do not turn a blind eye to the chaos in the cities. The bill grants the Attorney General the authority to withhold up to 10% of Department of Justice grants from city-states where prosecutors are failing to prosecute crimes arising from riots and other violent protests. The Department of Justice is responsible for determining prosecutorial misconduct for the purpose of implementing this legislation. And I do believe these individuals that have been caught looting, setting fires, breaking windows, they should have to pay for the damage. Doesn't matter how long it takes, they should have to pay for it. And I do believe with the Department of Justice, with certain governors, with this bill and everything else that's being pushed out there, everyone now is on notice. And we can see that they're getting prepared for what is coming. And we know that the deep state, they're going to deploy all assets. Because when you are no longer in control, when you're fighting for your life, you're going to deploy all assets to try to stop it. Is it going to work? No. Why? Because the patriots, they already know the playbook. They already know what they're going to do. They're 10 steps ahead. Why do you think they took the Senate? Why do you think this was all planned? Why do you think Trump, the patriots, have been maneuvering the deep state to exactly where they wanted them? Yes, maybe in the beginning nobody could understand why all this was happening, but at each step what they were doing is they were putting all the pieces into place because they knew at the very, very end they were going to have to go after them one way or another to stop them. And this is what has been happening right now. And now the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the mainstream media, they're finding themselves backed in a corner. They realize they've been trapped and there's no way out. But what's very interesting is just a couple of days ago, we had certain messages about an assassination, and it seems that a woman, she allegedly sent ricin to Trump, and she was arrested trying to enter the U.S. from Canada, and that happened last week. So the woman was taken into custody by federal law enforcement in Buffalo, and she was carrying a gun, and the officers detained her. The woman, whose name and country of origin have not been released, is expected to face federal charges brought by prosecutors in Washington, D.C. for allegedly mailing the letter to Trump, and it was laced with ricin. And remember, the deep state, they have the ability to control innocence. Let's get into the Patriot Intelligence Insider's post here. This is post 4740. Gives us a link to military.com. And this is the B-2 stealth bomber drops massive ordnance. So we know that Bill Barr is B-2 stealth bomber. Or does this refer to the nomination by Trump? And are they ready to drop the bomb? And it seems they are. Remember, the patriots are in control. The deep state, the mainstream media, the corrupt politicians, they are now trapped. And they're being squeezed. And as we get closer and closer to the election, they are going to ramp up their tantrum. But the patriots, they already know their plan. They already know the playbook. And their countermeasures are already in place. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.